I'm 58. At this age, people love to tell women we only need peace, a warm roof, a husband whose presence feels familiar, a few decent dinners, and anniversary toasts that sound like the same old lines. I believed that too. Until that night, right when Tom lifted his glass and smiled at me like he always did, he leaned close and whispered, his voice trembling like a draft slipping under a door. "Don't drink, Elaine. Your sister. She planned this." In that instant, my throat went dry. I looked across the table at Karen, my own sister, beaming like our family was still whole. "My name is Elaine Harper. If you'd asked me a month before that anniversary dinner, 'Elaine, are you happy?' I would have given the safest answer a woman nearing 60 can give. I'm fine." At this age, you learn to use fine like a blanket. It covers the scratches. From far away, everything looks neat. Up close, you can see where the paint is peeling. Tom and I were married for 31 years. We lived in a small suburb, close enough to the city for work, far enough that at night you could still hear crickets and smell fresh-cut grass. Our house wasn't a mansion, just a red brick place with a 2-car garage and a backyard maple tree Tom planted the year my son, Matt, went off to college. Matt is my son from before Tom. Tom raised him like his own. Matt lives in Arizona now with his own family. Kids grow up, and suddenly the house gets quiet and too big. Couples like us get told, find each other again. I tried. Karen. Karen is my older sister, 3 years older than me. She's always been the one who knows what to do. When our parents passed, Karen handled the paperwork. When I got sick, Karen was at the hospital first. When Tom lost his job 3 years ago, Karen said, "Let me help. I know someone at the bank. I know a lawyer." That's why I trusted her. The kind of trust you give family, no questions, no receipts. The last few months, Karen had been around a lot. She brought gifts, meals, advice. She'd say to Tom, "You two need to think long term. Let me manage things so it's easier." And Tom had changed too. He'd go quiet when Karen brought up money. He'd look at me like he wanted to say something, then swallow it. I told myself it was pride. Tom used to be a warehouse operations manager. He was used to handling things. Losing your job at 60 bruises a man. I loved him, so I tried not to press. For our 31st anniversary, Karen insisted on a cozy celebration. She booked a family-style restaurant. Warm lighting, soft jazz, steak, and mashed potatoes. She said, "You have to enjoy yourself. At this age, how many anniversaries do you think you'll get?" I remember smiling. The kind of smile a 58-year-old woman forces when she's trying to believe everything is still normal. Karen arrived early, wearing a cream coat, her hair curled softly, that familiar perfume, what used to make me feel safe because it smelled like my sister. Tom came in a little later with a small bouquet. He kissed my cheek, but he lingered longer than usual, like he was trying to apologize with time. Dinner went on. Karen talked nonstop. Neighbors, church committees, her grown kids. Every so often, she'd look at me with this bright, satisfied shine in her eyes, like someone who'd just finished something important. When dessert came, Karen clapped her hands for the server. "Bring us a bottle of red, a good one. We're toasting tonight." Tom flinched. I watched his hand tighten beside his fork and knife, like he was trying to hold himself together. The server poured. Karen lifted her glass first. "To Elaine and Tom. To a long marriage, to family." Tom lifted his glass. I did too. For a second, it felt like every other year. Warm light, clinking glass, smiles. Then Tom leaned in close to my ear. His voice was barely there, not enough for Karen to hear, but enough for the words to go straight into my spine. "Don't drink, Elaine. Your sister, she planned this." I froze. I told myself I must have misheard. Maybe Tom was joking, maybe he was stressed, but I looked into his eyes. Red-rimmed, desperate. Like a man carrying a secret that was crushing him. I didn't know what to do. If I set my glass down right away, Karen would notice. If I questioned Tom, Karen would hear, "I'm 58. But in that moment, I felt like a child. So I did the only thing I could think of. I smiled. A stiff, practiced smile, and lifted my glass like everything was fine. But right before the wine touched my tongue, I coughed lightly like it went down the wrong way. I set the glass down, reached for a napkin, and switched glasses. There were two glasses in front of us, mine and Tom's. I nudged mine a little closer to him like it was accidental. I pulled his closer to me like an old habit. Years ago, Tom used to set his glass too close to the edge, and I'd slide it back for him. Karen laughed, bright and insistent. "Drink, honey, just a sip, for luck." I looked at Karen. She looked right back at me, not blinking. I lifted the glass again. This time, I barely touched it to my lips, just enough to look normal, then set it down. Tom did the same. Karen took a long, confident swallow. 1 minute. 2. Karen was still smiling. Nothing happened. For a second, I felt stupid. Maybe Tom was imagining things. Maybe he'd been under too much pressure. Then Karen put her hand to her throat. Her smile faltered. She coughed. Harder. Her face drained of color. Tom shot up so fast his chair scraped loudly. "Karen, are you okay?" Karen tried to speak, but it came out as air. She grabbed her chest and then she collapsed. The restaurant erupted. The server called 911. People rushed over. I stood there stunned, staring at my wine glass like it was a sin sitting on the table. Tom grabbed my hand, squeezing hard enough to hurt. He whispered, not hiding it now. "Elaine, I'm sorry." In the ambulance, Karen lay still, her skin chalky. I looked at my sister and felt something inside me detach. She didn't feel like my sister anymore. All I could think was, Tom was right, so that means there really was a plan. At the hospital, the doctor said Karen was having a severe reaction, possible poisoning. They drew blood, hooked her to an IV. I sat in the waiting room with my hands cold as ice. Tom sat beside me, unable to meet my eyes. I asked, my voice raw, "What do you know?" Tom stared down at his shoes. A long time passed before he said, I don't know everything, but I know she's been doing something to you with your drinks, with your supplements." I laughed, but it wasn't a real laugh. "And you waited until tonight to say something?" Tom covered his face. His shoulders shook. "I was trapped, Elaine. I was stupid. I was scared. She had me." I looked at the man I'd lived with for over 30 years and saw him shrink into someone defeated. I didn't want to feel sorry for him anymore, yet my chest still hurt. That night, I went home alone. Tom stayed at the hospital with Karen. I walked into my kitchen, looked at the spice rack, the coffee mugs, the honey jar. Everything was exactly the same, but I felt afraid. Like this house wasn't mine anymore. I opened the medicine cabinet. Inside was a bottle of vitamins Karen had given me. She'd said they were good for my heart for sleep. I held it up to the light. It didn't have a proper pharmacy label, just a crooked, faded sticker. I set it on the counter like I was setting down a knife. My phone buzzed. A text from Tom. "Elaine, don't drink anything Karen gives you anymore. Don't eat anything she brings. I'll tell you everything, but you have to promise me. Don't do anything reckless." I read it, and my throat tightened. I didn't sleep. I sat at my kitchen table until morning, listening to the soft hum of the refrigerator, and for the first time in my life I wondered, how cruel can family be? Cliffhanger. End of Act 1. The next morning, I got an email from our insurance company. "Your beneficiary change has been processed." I opened it and saw the new beneficiary wasn't Tom. It wasn't my son. It was Karen Mitchell. There are pains that come from illness, accidents, grief. But there's another kind, quieter, when you realize someone you've loved has been living beside you like a stranger and you never knew. I printed the email, my hands shaking. This was the life insurance policy Tom and I bought when Matt was still in college. Back then we were thinking simply, if one of us goes first, the other won't lose everything. The beneficiary used to be Tom, then Matt. Now it was Karen. I hadn't signed a thing. I called the insurance company immediately. The representative spoke in that smooth, professional tone. "Mrs. Harper, the beneficiary update was submitted through the online portal. It includes an electronic signature and a verification code." I asked where the verification code was sent. She read back my phone number. I swallowed. "I never received a code." A pause. Then her voice softened. "Did you change your SIM card?" Or, does anyone else have access to your phone? I stared at my phone. Karen had helped me install apps more than once, and Tom knew my passcode because we don't keep secrets. In that moment, I understood. What I'd called trust was also an unlocked door. I called Tom. He answered hoarse. Elaine? I didn't circle it. Did you change my beneficiary to Karen? Silence. The kind that answers for you. Something inside me snapped. Why? I asked. Why would you do that to me? Tom exhaled like he'd been holding a weight for months. She told me, if I didn't, she'd destroy you. She said you weren't stable. She said you were forgetful. She said she could get you declared incompetent, file for guardianship. I was scared. I let out a bitter laugh. You were scared of her, but you weren't scared of losing me? Tom's voice cracked. I tried. I was going to tell you, but she had all the paperwork. And she had my debt. My stomach dropped. What debt? He didn't answer right away. I heard him swallow. I borrowed money when I lost my job. I hid it from you. She found out. I sat down hard. I remembered the months Tom job hunted, but was gone often. The calls he avoided. Karen saying, men that age have it tough, don't pressure him. It wasn't me pressuring him. It was me not looking closely enough. How did Karen find out? I asked. Tom's voice was small. She helped me at first. Then it became a noose. I hung up because I needed air. And I did what women over 50 sometimes do when we're scared. I cleaned, I wiped counters, folded towels, sorted papers, and it was in the papers that I found it. In a lower drawer, one Karen had sat at my table using more than once to help with finances, I found a thick folder. Inside, a power of attorney document with my name and a signature that looked like mine. But the slant was off. A will update draft that hadn't been notarized but included a line saying, if Elaine passes unexpectedly, Karen Mitchell will serve as supervisor of the estate. A list of accounts, Tom's 401k, our joint savings, and one I'd never heard of, Mitchell Family Consulting LLC. My fingers went numb. Karen wasn't just changing beneficiaries. She was building a road to move my life out of my hands. I replayed the restaurant in my head. Karen pushing the toast, Tom whispering, Karen collapsing. If Karen was the mastermind, why did she drink? Or did she not intend to? Did she think I'd drink first? One tiny shift, one swapped glass had knocked her plan off its track. And if I hadn't swapped it, what would have happened? I went to the corner cabinet and pulled out the same bottle of wine Karen had ordered. Tom had brought it home in the chaos after the restaurant. The bottle was almost full. I'm not a chemist. I'm not a detective. I didn't want to do anything stupid. I only knew this. I needed professionals. I called Linda, a longtime friend from church. Her husband is an estate and trust attorney. I felt embarrassed, ashamed. But what shame is worse than being hunted by your own sister? Linda came that afternoon. She sat at my kitchen table, studied the documents, and her face hardened. Elaine, she said, you need to lock down 3 things: your money, your legal documents, and your safety. I asked, barely audible, do you think my sister actually wants to kill me? Linda didn't dodge. If someone is forging signatures, changing beneficiaries, preparing guardianship paperwork, the next step usually isn't pretty. A chill ran through me. Linda told me to get a full checkup and explain my concerns. I did. My doctor, Dr. Patel, didn't laugh. He ordered blood work, liver and kidney tests, and asked about the vitamins Karen gave me. When my results came back, I sat quietly for a long time. Dr. Patel said my liver numbers were slightly off, and there were abnormalities that suggested possible long-term exposure to something. He didn't say poison. He was careful. He only said, stop taking anything you can't verify, and make sure no one else can access your medications. So I bought a small lock and secured my medicine cabinet. I changed my phone password. I changed the locks on my doors, and I watched. Karen was discharged after 2 days. She called me the moment she got home. Elaine, sweetheart, she said, voice trembling. I was terrified. I thought I was dying. Her fear sounded real, and a small, stubborn part of me wanted to soften. Then I remembered the insurance email. I'm glad you're okay, I said carefully. Karen paused, then shifted into sweet concern. Don't be mad at Tom. Men do foolish things. You know that. My grip tightened. What are you talking about? Karen laughed lightly. I just want your family to be okay. You should let me help. Insurance, Wills? You're older now. Let me handle it. I felt my stomach twist. I'll think about it. Karen's tone sharpened. Don't drag your feet. At our age, one stroke and it's over. You need to take care of Tom. Take care of Tom. Like I was already disappearing, and Tom was the prize she was protecting. That evening, Tom came home. He stood in the doorway like he wasn't sure he was allowed inside. He reached for me, then pulled back. Sit, I said. We sat across from each other at our kitchen table, the same table where we'd eaten breakfast, argued, made up, signed Matt's college forms. What did you sign? I asked. Tom pulled an envelope from his jacket. Inside were copies of the beneficiary change and a form with his signature. Karen handed it to me, he said. She said it was just to help if something happened to you. I looked at him. You didn't read it? He lowered his head. I did, but she said it was the only way to keep you safe. She threatened to say you weren't in your right mind. I wanted to scream. You believed her over your wife? Tom started crying. I was wrong, I know. But Elaine, she had my debt. She said she'd tell you. She said you'd hate me. I was afraid you'd leave. I went quiet. I thought about all the times I said marriage means trust. I thought about how proud I'd been that we made it. And now I was watching that pride crumble like old plaster. Do you know what was in the wine? I asked. Tom shook his head, eyes red. I don't know exactly. I only know Karen kept telling me, make sure Elaine drinks. I thought, maybe she just wanted you tipsy so you'd sign papers. Tipsy, like that made it better. My skin crawled. I leaned forward. From now on, you don't sign anything. You don't take anything Karen gives you. Do you understand? Tom nodded, but I knew promises weren't enough. Karen had gone too far to simply stop. Linda's husband suggested something practical. Set up a revocable living trust. Move my assets and the house into it. Appoint a successor trustee who wasn't Karen and frankly wasn't Tom either. And update every beneficiary on insurance and retirement accounts. In America, a lot of money never goes through probate. It goes straight to whoever is listed. If Karen had gotten her hands on that, I had to take it back. So I did it quietly. I went to the attorney's office. I signed in front of a notary. I updated beneficiaries. I listed Matt as secondary. I added a clause. If anyone tried to force changes through pressure or manipulation, the assets would go to a charitable fund. When it was done, I thought I could finally breathe. Karen didn't let me. A week later, she showed up unannounced with an apple pie and another bottle of wine. I want to make peace, she said, eyes glossy like she'd been crying. I don't want that night to ruin us. I opened the door, but I didn't invite her fully in. I stood on the porch with the cold air and falling leaves. Karen glanced around. Then she asked almost casually, Where's Tom? Out, I said. She smiled. You feeling okay? I heard you've been tired. I'm fine, I said, and I meant it differently this time. Karen walked into my kitchen, set the pie down, and her eyes flicked, quick as lightning, toward the drawer where my paperwork used to be. She said, Elaine, at this age, you need to let go of certain things. If you cling too tight and something happens, Tom won't know what to do. I asked, Are you worried about Tom? Or about something else? Her face tightened for half a second. Then she smiled again. I'm worried about family. She held up the wine. This time I'll pour, I'll drink with you, nothing weird. Don't make it a big deal. I took the bottle and felt like I was holding a snake. And a thought came into my mind, steady as a clock tick. If Karen still believes I don't know, I can make her talk. I set the wine down. Next week, the church group is doing an early Christmas dinner, I said evenly. I was thinking of inviting you and Tom here for dinner. A real dinner, like old times. Karen's eyes brightened like she'd found an open door. Sure, she said too quickly. I'll come. I'll bring the drinks. I nodded. Okay, bring them. She headed for the door, then turned back like she'd almost forgotten something. Elaine, you still trust me, right? My heart ached because some part of me wanted the answer to be yes. You're my sister, I said. Karen smiled. Exactly. I'm your sister. After she left, I stood in my quiet kitchen for a long time. Because I knew that dinner would be the last time I let Karen think she had any claim on my life. That night, Tom confessed to something else, his voice breaking. Elaine, Karen has a video of me. If she releases it, I'll lose everything. I asked, what video? Tom shook his head, tears falling. I did the stupidest thing of my life, and she's using it to keep me in line. I didn't sleep much that week. I felt fear, rage, and a grief so deep, it surprised me. Grief because Karen was my sister. Grief because Tom was my husband. Grief because at 58, I thought I was past the age of movie-style betrayal. I thought that kind of thing was for young people who were reckless. But greed doesn't care how old you are. I agreed to host the dinner, but it wasn't a dinner to reconcile. It was a dinner to end it. Linda and her husband helped me plan, legally, safely, with witnesses. I installed small security cameras in the kitchen and living room. I asked my neighbor Frank, a retired police officer, to come by at the exact dinner time to fix the backyard light, really to be close enough to step in and to serve as a witness. Linda's husband told me, if Karen confessed to anything, don't argue, don't escalate, secure evidence, call the proper authorities. I prepared my own drink separately and never let it out of my sight. Tom agreed to cooperate. He was terrified, but he was past the point of turning back. He said, I'll do whatever you need. Just stay safe. I looked at him, the man who once carried me over the threshold on our wedding day, and realized something painful. He still loved me, but his love wasn't strong enough to protect me when it mattered most. Dinner night came cold. Light snow drifted down. I decorated the house simply. Some twinkle lights, a wreath on the door. I cooked roasted chicken and mashed potatoes, Tom's favorite. I wanted it to look as family as possible so Karen wouldn't sense a thing. Karen arrived right on time, in a deep red sweater, smiling, carrying a bag. I brought wine, she said, and a gift. She handed me a small wrapped box. Inside was a silver bracelet engraved, Sisters Forever. I stared at those words and almost cried. Karen hugged me too tightly, tighter than normal. It felt like she was checking my heartbeat. Tom came out and forced a smile. Hi, Karen. Karen's eyes slid over him like velvet over a blade. Brother-in-law, tonight we're going to enjoy ourselves. We ate. Karen filled every silence with chatter, like she was trying to drown something out. I kept my face calm, but inside I counted minutes. When dessert ended, Karen stood. Now it's my turn. She took out the bottle, opened it herself, poured 3 glasses. I watched the wine flow, dark red like a fresh bruise. Karen lifted her glass. To family, to Elaine, to Tom, and to the future. Tom's hand shook around his glass. I lifted mine and remembered the restaurant. Tom's whisper, the insurance email. Karen, I said slowly, before we drink, I need to ask you something. She raised an eyebrow. What? I set my glass down. Why did you change the beneficiary on my life insurance? The air went still. Karen looked at me for a few seconds, then laughed. What are you talking about? I didn't. I reached into the drawer and pulled out the printed email. I slid it across the table. Karen read it. Her smile vanished. Tom's face went pale. Karen inhaled, then her voice turned cold. No more sweetness. Elaine, you don't understand. I did it for you. You're getting weaker. If something happens, Tom will panic. I was just preparing. Preparing by pressuring my husband to sign? I asked. Preparing by forging my signature? Karen tilted her head like she pitied me. You're always emotional. I've carried this family on my back. You know I'm the only practical one. I swallowed hard. Practical enough to want what? My money? Her eyes narrowed, and for the first time the truth showed through the mask. I want to protect your assets from your stupidity. A quiet, broken laugh escaped me. I was stupid enough to trust you. Karen stared at me with something I'd never seen in her eyes before: contempt. Elaine, she said, you were always the one everyone loved more. Mom and Dad loved you more. Tom loved you. Everyone saw you as this fragile little flower. And me? I did everything. I carried everything. And nobody ever thanked me. My heart hammered. Part of me wanted to scream, "You're my sister," but I didn't. So you're punishing me by killing me? I asked. Karen laughed, and there was nothing warm in it. Killing? Don't be dramatic. I'm just helping you rest. Tom jumped up. Karen, stop! Karen turned to him and said one word, quiet and sharp. Sit. And Tom, God help him, hesitated like a dog trained to flinch. That's when I understood just how long Karen had been controlling him. I said, Tom warned me. He whispered not to drink. Karen, what did you put in the wine? Karen looked between us and smirked. Your husband is soft. All I have to do is remind him about that video. And he behaves. I turned to Tom. What video? Tom covered his face, voice splintering. I relapsed once, 3 years ago. I drank, I drove, I almost caused an accident. Karen got footage, security camera footage from a convenience store. She kept it. She said if she released it, you'd leave me. The police would arrest me. I went cold. Tom had promised me he'd stop drinking after he lost his job. I believed him. Karen crossed her arms. See? I'm not a villain. I'm just using the truth to keep everyone on the right path. I stared at her, tears burning. The right path? By putting something in my drink? Karen shrugged like we were discussing groceries. You're anxious. You don't sleep. It's just something to help you relax. You'll fall asleep. And then you won't wake up. And everyone will say, poor Elaine. Her heart just couldn't take it. My stomach turned. She went on, almost casual. After that, I'll handle everything. Tom will be fine. The assets won't be touched by Matt, that son of yours who lives far away. I'll manage it. I've always been better at this than you. I looked at Tom. He was crying, but he couldn't meet my eyes. I stood up, hands shaking, but my voice came out strangely calm. Karen, you're wrong. She arched an eyebrow. Wrong about what? I pointed at the little camera on my bookshelf. You just said all of that on camera. Karen's face snapped. For 1 second, she froze. Then she lunged toward it, reaching. At that exact moment, the back door opened. Frank stepped in, holding up his phone, recording. His retired cop voice didn't shake. Mrs. Mitchell, he said, I've heard enough. Karen whipped around, her face turning paper white. I pressed the call button I'd already prepared. Linda's husband had told me, don't argue, don't let her destroy evidence, keep distance. Karen looked at me, and for the first time I saw fear in her eyes. Elaine, she said fast, don't do this, we're sisters. I started crying, like something inside me finally ripped open. Sisters don't change your insurance. Sisters don't forge your signature. Sisters don't put forever sleep in your wine. Sirens sounded outside. Karen turned to Tom and screamed, Tom, say something. Tell her she's wrong. Tom stood trembling, and then he stepped toward me. He placed himself between Karen and me, like a shield that showed up far too late. Enough, Karen, Tom said, voice thick. She's my wife. Karen stared at him like he'd betrayed her. Her mouth twisted. Your wife? She'll leave you anyway. She'll hate you. Tom's voice dropped. Maybe, but I'm not letting her die. The police came in. They cuffed Karen. She kept her eyes on me, bright with anger. Elaine, you'll be alone. You think you're strong? You'll regret this. I wiped my face and said, maybe I'll be alone, but I'll be alive, and I won't be afraid of you anymore. When the squad car drove away, my house felt painfully quiet. The Christmas lights still blinked like they didn't understand what had just happened. Tom sat down, drained. Elaine, I'm sorry. I stood with my hands on the kitchen table. I felt exhausted, but somewhere deep inside, something loosened, like a lock finally clicking open. I asked Tom the question I'd been afraid to ask. If I'd drunk that night at the restaurant, what would you have done? Tom sobbed. I don't know. I was a coward. I was scared. But when I saw you lift the glass, I couldn't let it happen. I whispered. I tried. I believed he tried, but he tried too late. Tom, I said quietly, I don't want revenge, but I can't live the way we were. His breath hitched. Are you leaving me? I didn't answer immediately. I looked out the window at the maple tree Tom planted. I thought about 31 years, about Matt, about breakfasts and sickness and hands held in dark times. Then I said the truth. I'm choosing the truth. And the truth is, my trust is broken. Tom bowed his head. I walked over and rested my hand on his shoulder. One last touch as a wife. We'll do what's right, I said. Civil, clear, no screaming. Tom looked up, eyes red. Will you forgive me? I took a slow breath. I'll forgive you so I can have peace, but I won't forget. End of Act 3. The next day, the attorney called. Karen was being charged. Fraud, forgery, and conspiracy to cause harm. And most importantly, every illegal beneficiary change was being stopped and reversed. I thought I would feel relief, like fireworks. Instead, I felt sadness, the kind you feel after you bury a part of your life. 3 months later, I was sitting in a smaller place, a condo near the water. The air smelled salty. In the mornings, I could hear seagulls. I didn't move to run. I moved to begin again. Tom and I divorced, about as gently as you can after something like this. He didn't fight me. He signed what the lawyers asked. He started therapy. He got serious about sobriety. Sometimes he emails, not begging me to come back, just saying, I'm okay today. I hope you are too. I don't write back much, but I'm not cruel. I understand something now. Tom was manipulated too. He was also a victim, just not the kind that erases what he did to me. Karen was convicted. I didn't go to court on sentencing day. I'd seen enough. I didn't want my life tangled in hers anymore. Linda told me, you have the right to hate her. I said, I just want to live. I did something I never pictured myself doing. I set up a small fund, not huge, but meaningful, to help women over 50 in my old town get basic legal guidance. How to check beneficiaries. How to set up a trust. How to protect themselves from financial abuse inside their own families. I called it Second Light. At the little opening, I invited a few close friends. No wine, just hot tea and cookies. Linda raised her teacup. To Elaine, to the truth, to every woman who thinks it's too late to start over. I lifted mine. My hands didn't shake. My chest didn't clamp down. I said slowly, to us, and to this, family is not a place where you should be afraid. That night, I went home and sat by the window listening to the waves. I thought about my parents, about the young Tom I married, about the Karen from childhood, the sister who used to hold my hand crossing the street. I cried a little, not because I wanted it back, but because I was mourning what should have been. Before bed, my phone lit up with a message from Matt. Mom, I'm proud of you. I think you saved not just yourself, but a lot of other people too. I set the phone down and let myself breathe. At 58, I learned something I wish I never had to learn. Being family is not a free pass to enter your life and take everything you are. And freedom, even when it arrives late, still counts as freedom. I turned off the light. Outside, the ocean kept its steady rhythm. For the first time in a long time, I fell asleep without feeling like I had to wake up inside someone else's plan.